Lindsay, before coming on with Drive My Way, can you describe what some of the recruiting challenges were that you were facing?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge internally was that we had some team reductions. So it wasn't just a, issue of getting drivers hired on. It was also an internal issue of how are we going to, filter through all of these applicants and hire for the 100 plus terminals that we have. So we were really looking to find some solutions, not just in terms of leads, but also how do we bring in the highest quality leads we can get, so that we don't need to have a team of 20 calling through leads and applicants, and we could do it with a smaller team.
Lindsay, can you talk a little bit about the role of a recruiter with lead sourcers in the mix and then without?
We've got a lot of terminals here at Quality Carriers, and between the few of us that are left, we have it all broken down and have certain terminals that we focus on. Some are in easier areas like Houston, and then you got some terminals that are a little harder to hire for. And I think those are some of the spots that your team has helped us with as well. With the lead sources that come in, I felt like Drive My Way did a really good job of like the candidates that I would call, they would know, oh, yes, yes, Drive My Way sent me your information, and they knew that Quality Carriers was going to reach out. Versus there are some sources that we get that you're like, I'm like, oh, we got your information from such and such, and they had no clue. So I felt like that was really handy. Like they already knew we were a tanker company, what we were looking for, and I thought they were great leads.
So, can you describe how Way specifically helped with some of the challenges that you were dealt, with some steep recruiting metrics that you had to hit with the number of hires, and that coupled with a reduced size in your team?
Well, you always have multiple recs, and you got to hit multiple metrics. Thankfully, Drive My Way was able to kind of help us with most of them. So our biggest goal starting out was to hire about 30 plus over the road drivers, which we were able to utilize Drive My Way for because we selected a few key markets and had you guys focus on them. And I believe our lead, and you guys probably know better than me at this point, but our lead to conversion ratio was 13 to 1, meaning 13 applicants to one hire, which is just way better than we get from any source really. We're able to strategically identify those either markets or general hiring needs, and then utilize you guys as a tool, which again, we wouldn't get inundated with leads, but that was the goal, right? Because we had such a small team. I didn't necessarily want 200 leads. I wanted, give me 50 leads, and out of those 50, let's see if we can hire 4 or 5, right? Which again, looking at the data and the performance, we hit our goals and really surpassed our goals in a lot of ways.
Can you talk a little bit about over the period how working with Drive My Way specifically helped you streamline or simplify the process?
It didn't change our process, but it made our process all that easier because again, we weren't having to go through calling the leads, and each lead we need to contact 3 times before we move on to the next one. When we're getting these full apps, we're jumping in and talking about the job right away, right? So it's like it's almost doing the job of the lead generator that we used to have, who would kind of get them on the hook and get them interested, and then the recruiter would take over. With the Drive My Way, it was, they weren't coming in as leads, they were coming in as full applications ready to go.
How is that all able to help you really hone in and focus on the high value added recruiting activities as a recruiter, being able to drill into the assessment and selection piece?
Yeah, having the application already completed and them knowing a little bit about us does just be able to cut out kind of that middleman, like Otto was saying, that lead generator we used to have. And we could just dive right into, making sure that they did meet the requirements and what are they looking for? Can we meet their needs? So it was a much quicker process.
What is it that you liked best about the Drive My Way solution?
Well, we had a lot of roles, especially earlier this year, that we needed to fill. Like I'd mentioned kind of earlier, sometimes you get those leads and the drivers have no clue what company you are and what you have. and you kind of got to start from scratch. What I really enjoyed about it was the leads that were coming in, and most of them were really good quality, or we knew that they were going to meet our needs. And so it saved time. The time was really important when you're on a crunch to hire so many drivers. And so getting some of the best leads to focus on instead of being so spread out really was beneficial.
Otto, can you describe how Drive My Way has been an experience that's been different than any other recruiting tools you've used?
I think the biggest one is, again, just the way you guys approach your leads, kind of fostering that relationship between employer and the candidate. And I think also the only reason it works is because you guys, I don't know how you do it, but all of your leads have very high engagement within your application,
So
right?
would you recommend Drive My Way to another company?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would recommend it, and I'd be willing to even give them some contacts if they needed to get started with a contact. I hadn't used Drive My Way before, so I didn't know what to expect. But probably within a month or two, it was very evident that we would get our ROI, and things worked really better than I expected, if I can be honest.
Lindsay, would you recommend Drive My Way to another company?
Yes, I would recommend Drive My Way. And for me, I think it's a lot of just because of the good quality of the leads and the amount of time it saves you when you don't have to weed through so many people that don't even know who your company is.
Can either one of you speak to the retention of the drivers that have joined through Drive My Way?
I looked at the overall turnover, and it was 18% lower than our non-Drive My Way drivers. And I took a little bit of a deeper dive in that, and I noticed that, well, one, it's probably because they're Drive My Way drivers, but two, I think what also really, really increases the longevity of how long drivers stay is whether they have tanker experience. And more than half of the drivers that we got from Drive My Way had tanker experience. So I think that really made a big difference on retention.